Good afternoon, everyone. For today, we will going to tackle about the chapter 12, which is the law related to tourism, investment, and finance. So there's a saying, teach a man how to start a business and you feed him many lifetimes. So first, let us discuss the case of the delayed retirement village. It was Rafael Valdez, is a seasoned restorateur who made his fortune via his two-defining restaurant which is solely owns in the financial district of Makati. But Mr. Valdez is still dreaming of a bigger things. He would like to build a deluxe hotel, a retirement village, and a spa complex, and many more. On the retirement village, he was able to convince some friends and suppliers to invest over 5,100 million and a bank loan was secured for 5,200 million. The idea was to build 50 upscale retirement home adjacent to his North Hotel of Manila for the Japanese, the Filipino American, and the European markets. Each unit would sell 55.2 million, and even before they could get the necessary permits, Mr. Valdez was able to sell 8 units already. I was warned by the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board on the consequences of pre-selling without the permit. He promised to the buyers to have the units contracted by 2010. 1 year has passed and no work has been done on the land development aspects of the project. Meanwhile, money invested by partners and money received as sales were already spent on the new additional restaurant being built to Dr. Pacifico Morales. One of the Filipino American retirees has been inquiring about his unit and no one could give a definite answer. So, what are your impressions of the business venture? What violations did Mr. Valdez commit, and what are those liabilities to the investors and the buyers? Session of the Law. Republic Act 7042 as amended by Republic Act 8149 on March 25, 1996, also known as Foreign Investment Act of 1991. It provides for the policy that foreigners can now invest in all activities and enterprises in the Philippines, except those covered in the negative list. When a foreign investment in the Philippines is not covered or does not seek incentives under the Omnibus Investment Code, the foreign national or entity can ascertain the extent of allowable foreign equity in the enterprise sought to be entered into by simply referring for the negative list and filling the necessary requirements with the Securities and Exchange Commission of the law. Republic Act 7042 as amended by Republic Act 8179 on March 25, 1996, also known as the Foreign Investment Act of 1991, provides for the policy that the foreign can now invest in all activities and enterprises in the Philippines, except those covered in a negative list. When a foreign investment in the Philippines is not covered or does not seek incentives under the Omnibus Investment Code, the foreign national or entity can ascertain the extent of allowable foreign equity in the enterprise sought to be entered into by simply referring to the negative list and filling the necessary requirements with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And therefore, the procedure for registration. A foreign national or entity not seeking to avail of incentives under the Omnibus Investment Code shall file an application of registration as follows. First is the corporation and the partnership with the Securities and Exchange Commission or the SEC. The existing requirements for foreign corporations are number one, the name verification slip. The next is the certified copy of board resolution authorizing the establishment of the Philippines office, designating the resident agent, and a stipulation that in the absence of such agent or upon cessation of its business in the Philippines, the SEC shall receive summons and legal processes. Third is the financial statement, as certified by an independent or certified public accountant of home country for immediately preceding years at the time of filling of the application. Fourth is the certified copies of the articles of corporation or the partnership with English translation. Fifth is the foreign company information sheet. And lastly, the sixth one is the proof of inward remittances, such as bank certificate or the inward remittance or the credit advices. There is also the existing of incorporation or the partnership. In the case of new domestic corporation or a partnership, first is the articles of incorporation and partnership. The next is the name verification slip. Third is the bank certificate. Of the law. The case Tan O Ching, a Chinese resident and a citizen, wants to try an air transportation business in the Philippines. If the lawyer appointed by Tan O Ching to put up this kind of business, what advice will you give? According to the legal opinion, as the lawyer of Tan O Ching, I will advise him that he cannot engage in air transportation as a sole proprietorship because of the constitutional limitation that the operation of the public utility, like the air transportation business, shall be granted only to the citizens of the Philippines, unless he wants to be naturalized citizen under the Philippine law. Or under the current situation, I may advise him to look for the partners and incorporators to form a partnership or a corporation under the Philippine laws. However, the formation must be based on the limited 40% of foreign equity by reason of the constitutional limitation. And investment in transportation business and public utilities. The law. Article 12, National Economy and Patrimony, Section 11, no franchise certificate or any form of authorization for the operation of a public utility shall be granted except to the citizens of the Philippines or to the corporations or associations organized under the laws of the Philippines or at least 60% or whose capital is owned by such citizen, nor shall such franchise, the certificate, or the authorization must be inclusive in character or for a longer period than 50 years. Neither shall any franchise or right be granted except under the discussion of the law from common carriers such as the airline, the land, and the water transportation business. The operation of such involved public service, which shall be granted only to the citizens of the Philippines or to the corporation or the associations organized under the laws of the Philippines, or same for at least 60 by such citizens. In other words, the foreign participation is limited to only 40%. In addition, the executive and the managing officers of the corporations or association operating a transportation business shall be exclusive to the citizens of the Philippines. In case of Virginia Perez, a Filipino citizen and a businesswoman wants to engage in a limousine and a car service business. She wants to start a fleet of 10 cars. If you were the lawyer appointed by Miss Perez to set up this kind of business, what advice would you give? According to the legal opinion, as the lawyer of Virginia Perez, I would advise her that she may engage in the transportation business as a sole proprietorship. Look for a partners to form a partnership or an incorporators to form a corporation. In accordance with the Philippine laws, if she chooses to form a partnership or a corporation, she must observe the limitation for a foreign ownership, a maximum of 40% total equity. So let's move on to the investment in travel agencies and tour operator. It must be a resident Filipino citizen, a partnership organized under the laws of the Philippines, at least 60% of its capital, being owned by the Filipino citizens, and a corporation organized under the law of the Philippines, or at least 60% of the subscribers. Common or voting shares of stocks of which is owned by the Filipino citizens and the composition of its board directors being at the 60% Filipinos. The above provides the limitation of foreign participation to 40% for the purpose of accreditation and operation of the travel agency and tour operator by the Department of Tourism. In addition, Memorandum Order Number 211 providing 2006 Investment Priorities Plan. April 4, 2006, tourism, which covers travel agencies and tour operators, has been classified as preferred activities pursuant to the Article 29 of the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987. Thus, in 1987, the Philippine Constitution, Section 2, Rules and Regulations to govern the accreditation of travel and tour services. Order for a travel agency or a tour operator to be entitled for the registration under the Investment Priorities Plan. An applicant must be satisfied the Board of Investment that he is a citizen of the Philippines in case the applicant is a natural person or in case of the partnership or any association, it is organized under the Philippine law and that at least 60% of its capital is owned and controlled by the citizens of the Philippines. Or in case of the corporation or a cooperative, it is organized under the Philippine law for still same for the 60% of the capital stock outstanding and entitled to vote is owned by the Philippine national as defined under the Article 15 of the Omnibus Investment Code of the Philippines. So much for that. If you want to invest in a business here in the Philippines, dili jud siya dapat foreign. Dapat Pilipino ka, you are born and a Filipino citizens or kung na may foreign nga mo invest, dapat is dili siya makadayon-dayon og invest here in the Philippines. Dapat motukod pa siya corporation or partnership within the Filipino. Kay it must be owned by the Filipino citizens here in the Philippines according to the law.
Investment in hotels, resorts, and other accommodation establishment, the law, by the reason of the enactment of Memorandum Order Number 211 approving the 2006 Investment Priorities Plan, April 4, 2006. Tourism has been classified as preferred activities pursuant to Article 29 of the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987. So, tourism covers the development of tourism economic zones, tourist estates, and agritourism facilities, and the establishment of the tourism accommodation facilities and hotels, resorts, and other tourism accommodation facilities such as apartments, pension houses, tourist inns, and similar establishments. Section of the law. In order for tourist accommodation facilities to be entitled for registration under the Investment Priorities Plan, an applicant must satisfy the Board of Investment. So, mao ni siya aron ang mga tourist accommodation sa mga turista na ikatungod sa pagparehistro under the Investment of Priorities Plan. Dapat ang usa ka aplikante masatisfy siya sa Board of Investment. Filipino citizens. So, kani siya katuning mga restaurants ug uban pang mga establishment such as department stores and shops nga gidumala sa mga balaod sa retail trade tungod sa kinaiya sa ilang negosyo sa mga Filipino citizens. Discussion of the law. The following sales transactions are exempted under the coverage of the Retail Trade Liberalization Act of 2000 and allowed 100% foreign ownership participation. So, mao ni siya yung mga following sales transactions nga under sa coverage of the Retail Trade Liberalization Act of 2000.
Tourism projects under the Build, Operate, and Transfer or BOT program. The Republic Act No. 6987, as amended by Republic Act 7718, referred to as the BOT law, implements the declared policy of the state to recognize the indispensable role of the private sector as the main engine for national growth and development, and provide the most appropriate favorable incentives to mobilize the private resources for the purpose. The coverage of the BOT law extended not merely to government infrastructure projects, but also to government development projects. The following are the schemes recognized under the law. The first scheme is the Build and Transfer or the BT. It is a contractual arrangement whereby the project proponent undertakes the financing and construction of a given infrastructure or development facility, and after its completion turns it over to the agency or the LGU concerned, which shall pay the project proponent on an agreed schedule its total investment expended in the project, plus a reasonable rate of return thereon. These arrangements may be employed in the construction of any infrastructure or development projects, including critical facilities which, for security or strategic reasons, must be operated directly by the government. The second scheme is the Build, Lease, and Transfer or the BLT. It is a contractual arrangement whereby a project proponent is authorized to finance and construct an infrastructure or development facility and upon its completion turns it over to the agency or LGU concerned on a lease arrangement for a fixed period, after which ownership of the facility is automatically transferred to the agency or LGU concerned. Next is the Build, Own, and Operate, or the BOO. It is also a contractual arrangement whereby a project proponent is authorized to finance, construct, own, and operate, and maintain an infrastructure or development facility from which the project proponent is allowed to recover its total investment, operating and maintenance costs, plus a reasonable return thereon by collecting tolls, fees, rentals, or other charges from facility users, provided that all such projects upon recommendation of the Investment Coordination Committee or the ICC of the National Economic and Development Authority or the NEDA shall be approved by the President of the Philippines. Under this project, the proponent who owns the assets of the facility may assign its operation and maintenance to a facility operator. Then we have the Build, Operate, and Transfer or the BOT. Also, a contractual arrangement whereby a project proponent undertakes the construction, including financing or of a given infrastructure facility and the operation and maintenance thereof. The project proponent operates the facility over a fixed term during which it's allowed to charge facility users appropriate tolls, fees, rentals, and charges not exceeding those proposed in its bid or as negotiated to enable the project proponent to recover its investment and operating and maintenance expenses in the project. Then we have the BTO or the Build, Transfer, and Operate, a contractual arrangement whereby the agency or the LGU contracts out the construction of an infrastructure or facility to a private entity such that the contractor builds the facility on a turnkey basis, assuming cost overruns, delays, and specified performance risks. Once the facility is commissioned satisfactorily, title is transferred to the implementing agency or the LGU. The private entity, however, operates the facility on behalf of the implementing agency or the LGU under an agreement. Next is the Contract Add and Operate or the CAO, a contractual arrangement whereby the project proponent adds to an existing infrastructure facility which it is renting from the government and operates the expanded project over an agreed franchise period. There may be or may not be a transfer arrangement with regard to the added facility provided by the project proponent. Then we have the develop, operate, and transfer, the DOT or the DOT. Still a contractual arrangement whereby favorable conditions external to a new infrastructure project which is to be built by a project proponent are integrated into the arrangement by giving that entity the right to develop adjoining property and thus enjoy some of the benefits the investment creates, such as higher property or rent values. We also have the rehabilitate, operate, and transfer, the ROT or the ROT, a contractual arrangement whereby an existing facility is turned over to the project proponent to refurbish, operate, and maintain for a franchise period, at the expiry of which the legal title to the facility is turned over to the government. The term is also used to describe the purchase of an existing facility from abroad, importing, refurbishing, erecting, and consuming it within the host country. Next to ROT is the ROO, rehabilitate, own, and operate. Still a contractual arrangement whereby an existing facility is turned over to the project proponent to refurbish and operate with no time limitation imposed on ownership. As long as the operator is not in violation of its franchise, it is it can continue to operate the facility in perpetuity. Like any other contracts or agreement, we have a term that's called period covered. So the period covered, the contractor transfers the facility to the government unit concerned at the end of the fixed term, which shall not exceed 50 years. Then the financing allowed. For the construction stage, contractor may obtain financing from foreign and/or domestic sources to engage the services of a foreign or a Filipino contractor. The financing of foreign or foreign-controlled contractor from Philippine government financing institutions shall not exceed 20% of the total cost of the infrastructure facility or the project. The financing from foreign sources shall not require a guarantee by government or by government-owned and controlled corporations. This is really very important, especially in locals. Employment of Filipino workers. In the case of foreign contractors, Filipino labor shall be employed or hired in the different phases of the construction where Filipino skills are available. Then we have the priority projects. All concerned infrastructure agencies, including government-owned and controlled corporations and local government units, shall include in their infrastructure programs those priority projects that may be financed, constructed, operated, and maintained by the private sector. Under Joint Resolution Number 03, passed by Congress, the following have been classified as national priority infrastructure projects related to tourism. The first one, highways including expressways, roads, bridges, interchanges, tunnels, and related facilities. Second, rail-based projects packaged with commercial development opportunities, example, use of government facilities. Third, non-rail based mass transit facilities, navigable inland waterways, and related facilities. Fourth are port infrastructures like piers, wharves, quays, storage, handling, ferry services, and related facilities. Fifth, airports, air navigation, and related facilities. Sixth, tourism, educational, and health infrastructure. Seventh, land reclamation, dredging, and other related development facilities. Eighth, industrial estates, regional industrial centers, and export processing zone. And the last one is development of new townsters and communities and related facilities. We have the registration with the Board of Investment. Republic Act 7718 provides that projects costing in excess of 1 billion pesos shall be registered with the Board of Investments or the BOI and entitled to the incentives provided under the Omnibus Investment Code. For projects undertaken as authorized under the revised internal rules costing 51 billion pesos or less, may, upon registration with the BOI, avail of incentives provided under the Omnibus Investment Code subject to the inclusion of the project activity in the preference to Filipino contractors. In order to be accorded preference, a Filipino contractor is required to submit an equally advantageous bid with the same price and technical specifications as that of the foreign contractor. A Filipino contractor will not be accorded preference unless his bid is at par on both price and technical aspects with that of the foreign contractor. Let's talk about the investment incentives and government undertaking under the BOT law. Subject to existing laws, policies, rules, and regulations, the government may provide any form of direct or indirect support of contribution, such as but not limited to the following: the cost sharing, credit enhancements, direct government subsidy, direct government equity, performance undertaking, legal assistance, and last, the security assistance.
Now let's talk about the credit card. So we all know what credit card is. So according to the book, credit card is defined as a small card establishing the right of a holder to credit on a certain purchases such as meals, lodging, gasoline, or merchandise. It is wallet-sized identification card that enables its holder to buy products and obtain services and credit from one or a variety of business firms. So, nakita naman jud ta og business cards, mo na siya ang kanang mura siya wallet size na magamit nimo anywhere na pwede maka-access og credit card. Like for example, madto ka Gaisano and nalimot ka sa imong cash or wala kay cash but naa kay credit card na naay sulod. So pwede naman ni siya gamiton as imuhang pangbayad sa imong gipamalit. Like for example, imong groceries, tapos madto kag Jollibee, pwede mo na siya pangbayad sa imong meals, sa imong gasolines, lodging, or other nga pwede maka-access sa credit cards na pwede magamit nga anything na makakuan ka sa imong credit card, magamitan imong credit card sa imong gipamalit if wala kay cash in with you. So another explanation of credit card is that it allows consumer to borrow money up to a certain credit limit provided by the issuer, which must be repaid with interest. So the consumers ang consumers is naa sila kuan nga ang credit card ilang i-allow ang mga consumers nga mo borrow sa money sa issuer, depende sa issuer kay naman ni siya limit nga pag loan, but ang imong pagbayad sa loan is naa ni siya interest, so they are accepted as form of a payment for goods and services almost everywhere. As what I've said ganiha, ang kaning credit card pwede jud nimo ni siya magamit anywhere, everywhere jud ni siya nimo magamit or anytime as long as ang credit card mo is naay sulod. So according to section 3 to the law, credit card access device means any card, plate, code, account number, personal identification number or other telecommunication service equipment or instrumental identifier, or that means of account access can be used to obtain money, goods, services, or any other thing of value or to initiate transfer of funds or other than a transfer originated solely by proper instrument. So, let's proceed to section 3, which is the open-end credit. So what is the open-end credit? So this refers to a type of loan where the borrower can continuously borrow money up to a certain limit with having to apply for a new loan every time. Examples of open-end credit include credit cards and line of credit. The borrower can borrow money as needed up to credit limit and pay back the amount borrowed with interest. So, ang imong gi-borrow nga money is imo dyan siyang bayaran na naay interest. So, open end credit is beneficial because you don't have to keep reapplying for a new loan every time you need the money, but you have to be cautious of overspending and accumulating debt. So, ang naka-benefit sa open-end credit is dili na ka magsigig reapply og loan. So next is the rules on renewal. So we have the 4 rules of renewal. First is the rules on prior disclosure. So a card issuer that imposes any fee shall transmit a consumer's credit card amount, a clear and conspicuous disclosure of the date, the month, or the billing period at the close of which the account will expire if will not renewed. So ang imuhang card, if dili siya nimo ma-renewed, ma-expire ni siya. Mo ni siya ang means sa kanang rules on prior disclosure. If dili nimo ma-renew imuhang card, ma-expire ni siya. So the second is the manner of disclosure. So disclosure required in renewal must either be made prior to posting to the account an annual periodic fee or with a periodic billing statement, first disclosing that the fee has been posted to account subject to condition that consumer is given 30 days to avoid payment of fee or have fee recredited to the account. So ang consumer gitagaan og 30 days to avoid payment of fee or have fee recredited to the account. In case consumer does not wish to continue availant of the credit. So in case rani kung dili gyud mo continue ang consumer nga availment sa credit. So we have the access device fraud and the fraud commission. Access device fraud, it refers to a type of fraudulent activity in which someone is illegally uses another person's access device such as credit card, debit card, or account number without their permission to make purchases or obtain monetary value or services. This can include stealing credit card information through phishing schemes or skimming devices, creating counterfeit cards using stolen information, or using stolen credential to make an authorized transaction online. Access device fraud can result in financial losses for victims and can have legal consequences for perpetrators. It is important to monitor financial statements regularly and report any suspicious activity to financial institution. A fraud commission is a government agency or organization tasked with investigating and preventing fraudulent activities. It may be responsible for enforcing laws related to fraud and conducting investigations onto individuals or groups suspected of fraudulent behavior. The Commission may work with another organization such as financial regulators or law enforcement agency to identify and prosecute those who engage in fraudulent activity. The ultimate goal of a fraud commission is to protect consumers and business from financial losses due to scams or other fraudulent activities. So, responsible ang kaninga fraud commission para sa mga naay mga panghitabo nga mga scams, mga pangingilad ba para malikayan gyud ang kanang losses sa imuhang business. Malikayan ang mga scammers. So ang kanipod nga fraud na mag-contact po ni silang mga laing agency na kanang related or mga laws nga related to mga sa mga fraud. So, let's proceed to exemption from taxes and duties on imported spare parts. So, a registered enterprise with a bonded manufacturing warehouse shall be exempt from customs duties and national internal revenue taxes on its importation of a required supplies, spare parts for consigned equipment or those imported with incentives. So we also have the exemption from wharfage dues and export tax duty imposed and fees. So an enterprise registered under the IPR will be given a 10-year period from the date of registration to avail the exemption from wharfage dues and any export tax imposed and fees on its non-traditional export products. So we also have the tax exemption on breeding stocks and genetic materials. So agricultural procedures will be exempted from the payment of all taxes and duties on their importation of breeding stock and genetic material with 10 years from the date of registration or commercial operation. So we also have here the tax credit. So what is the tax credit? So the tax credit on the tax and duty portion of domestic breeding stocks and genetic material. A tax credit equivalent to 100% of the value of national internal revenue taxes and customs duties on local breeding stocks with 10 years from the date of registration or commercial operation for a agriculture producer. So, ang tax credit nag-equivalent ni siya to 100% nga value sa national internal revenue sa mga taxes. So, we also have here the additional reduction from taxable income. So, additional deduction from labor expense for the first 5 years from registration, a registered enterprise shall be allowed an additional deduction from taxable income equivalent to 50% of the wages of additional skilled and unskilled workers in the direct labor force. So, ang kaning additional deduction kani siya ang gikan ni siya sa labor expense nga sa first 5 years nimo nga registration ang registered enterprise kay mag-allow sila another mag-add sila other deduction sa taxable income nga nag-equivalent og 50% wages sa additional skilled ug unskilled workers nga direct sa labor force.
Business model. Joint venture. In a joint venture, which is similar to partnership, two or more persons bind themselves to contribute money, property, or industry, with the intention of dividing the profits among themselves. Discussion of the law. To constitute a joint venture, there must be an agreement to enter into undertaking in objects of which parties have community of interest and common purpose in performance, and each of the parties must have an equal voice in the manner of its performance and control over agencies used therein, though one may entrust performance to others. A joint venture is distinguished from a partnership in such a way that a joint venture may or may not attain a juridical personality. If qualified as a partnership under the Civil Code, it is taxable as a corporation, and if not qualified as a partnership, it has no juridical personality. Corporations may enter into a consortium among themselves to finance a specific venture and divide the profits according to the terms of the agreement. Joint ventures, while not expressly recognized as much under the Civil Code of the Philippines, are afforded the same legal status as a partnership. Consequently, because the tax rules for partnership are harsher than for corporations, Joint ventures established in the traditional sense tend to be uncommon. The more common approach is to establish a new corporation with the joint ventures holding shares in the corporation. The exception is for investment in construction project or in energy operation pursuant to an operating or consortium agreement under a service contract with the Philippines government. In this case, the joint venture will be treated as conduit vehicle for tax purposes, which overcomes the punitive nature of the tax rules applying to partnership. A management contract is an agreement under which operational control of an enterprise is vested by contract in a separate enterprise which performs the necessary managerial functions in return for a fee. Management contracts involve not just selling a method of doing things, as with franchising or licensing, but involves actually doing them. A management contract can involve a wide range of functions, such as technical operation of a production, facility management of personnel, accounting, marketing services, and training. In Asia, and specifically in the Philippines, many deluxe and first-class hotels operate under management contract arrangement with their multinational counterparts, as they can more easily obtain economies of scale. A global reservation system, broad recognition, etc., it is not unusual for contracts to be signed for 25 years and having a fee as high as 3.5% of total revenues and 6 to 10% of gross operation profit. For example, properties like Hotel Sofitel, New World Renaissance Hotel, Manila Diamond Hotel, Dusit Hotel Nico, Pan Pacific Hotel, and Mandarin Oriental are all under management contract. Management contracts have been used by a wide extent in the airline industry, and when foreign government actions restrict other entry methods, management contracts are often formed where there is a lack of local skills to run a project. It is an alternative to foreign direct investment as it does not involve a high risk and can yield higher returns for the company. Franchising. The law. A franchise is a privilege given to a dealer by a franchise service organization to sell the franchisor's product or services, including trademarks and trade names in a given area. With or without exclusivity, such arrangements are sometimes formalized in a franchising agreement, which is a contract between a franchisor and a franchisee wherein the former may offer consultation, promotional assistance, financing, and other benefits. The franchisee must pay a franchise fee for such right. In addition, the franchise is typically required to use the franchisor's product. Discussion of the law. A franchise is a license from the owner of a trademark or trade name permitting under to sell a product or service under that name or mark. More broadly stated, a franchise has evolved into an elaborate agreement under which the franchisee undertakes to conduct a business or sell a product or service in accordance with methods and procedures prescribed by the franchisor, and the franchisor undertakes to assist the franchise through advertising, promotion, and other advisory services. Product distributorship is a form of franchising where owners of products allow other parties to sell or distribute their products or even use their trademark as a dealer. There is minimal or no control of operations. The relationship is con- the relationship is centered on the quality of product sold. The business format is a form of franchising used by 90% of companies involved in franchising. This is the reason why franchising is considered the most successful way of expansion worldwide. In business format, the franchisor model registered trademark and products has developed a business system that is made available for use to franchisees. Compliance to the business system is the core and essential element of their contractual relationship embodied in a franchise agreement. The proliferation of several hotels in the country with international brands or names we made possible through franchising agreements. The same is true for certain international restaurants and coffee shops such as Figaro Max is now engaged in franchising outside the Philippines. Time sharing. Time sharing is a form of shared property ownership, commonly in vacation or recreation condominium property, wherein rights vest in several owners to use property for specified periods each year. With timeshares, the use and cost of running the resort are shared among the owners. Developers have applied the timeshare model to house boats, yacht campgrounds, motor homes, cruises, and private jets. The notion of a timeshare was originally created in Europe in the 1960s. A ski resort developer in French Alps innovatively marketed his resort by encouraging guests to stop renting a room and instead buy the hotel. The developer was successful in increasing occupancy, and the idea spread worldwide. Timeshare ownership of vacation or recreation property is a popular choice for persons who wish to secure a long-term commitment to a particular location. Timesharing is common in Hawaii, Florida, Arizona, Colorado, and Mexico, as well as in certain other popular vacation spots in the United States. When a person signs a contract to purchase a timeshare, he is agreeing to pay the owner of the property a sum of money for the exclusive right to use or occupy the property for a specified time during the year, 1 or 2 weeks in the typical period that may be purchased. Usually, the timeshare agreement is made for improved property such as a vacation home. The form of a timeshare agreement varies. Usually, the person has the right of exclusive use of vacation home during the same time each year or other specified period. Each timeshare unit is considered an estate or interest in real property, separate and distinct from all other timeshare stays in the same unit or any other unit. Therefore, estate may be separately conveyed and encumbered. The cost of purchasing a timeshare depends on the time year selected. Premium prices are charged for the most popular times of the year. The annual maintenance fee for the vacation property and the annual property taxes are divided proportionally among the timeshare owners. A person who does not plan to use the property during the specified period may rent the timeshare to a third party. Timeshare agreements are affected by various federal and state statutes. States generally require developers.
Law on income taxes. Taxes. The Philippines impose taxes on income for both individuals and corporations. Income taxes are the source of revenue for government. They are used to fund public services, pay government obligation, and provide goods for citizens. In addition to the federal government, many states and local jurisdictions also levy income taxes. Value added taxes. A value-added tax is imposed on any person who in the course of trade or business sells, barters, exchanges, leases goods or properties, renders services,
or engage in similar transaction and who imports goods. Percentage taxes. Person whose annual gross receipts do not exceed 550,000 are exempt from payment of value-added tax but shall pay a percentage tax equivalent to the 3% on quarterly sales. Excise taxes. Excise tax is imposed on certain specified goods manufactured or produced for consumption in the Philippines for domestic sales or consumption or for any disposition, and those imported. Customs and import duties. Customs duties are taxes on imports or imports. Information begins from the time carrying vessel or aircraft enters Philippines territorial jurisdiction with the intention to unload therein to the time the goods are released or withdrawn from customs house upon payment of the customs duties with legal permit to withdraw. Trouble taxes. Under Presidential Decree number 1183 as amended by PD 105 Batas Pambansa or BP. 38 an Executive Order or AO 283 Filipinos and other national traveling to other countries and required to pay travel tax before departure from the Philippines. Duty-free Philippines. Duty-free Philippines is a duty and tax-free merchandising system in the Philippines created to generate foreign exchange and revenues for the government. The Department of Tourism, through the Philippines Tourism Authority, was authorized to establish said Barangay Microbusiness Enterprise Law. The BMB's Act of 2002 aims to boost the economy by promoting and supporting small business in barangays or local communities. It seeks to integrate informal sector business into the formal economy by reducing red tape and providing government support at the local level. The Act offers incentives and benefits to encourage the growth of these micro-enterprises, create jobs, and reduce poverty. A barangay micro-business enterprise or BMBE is a business involved in producing, processing, trading, or providing services with total asset not exceeding 3 million pesos. Companies, cooperatives, or association that meet the BE qualification can apply for registration. According to the tax services in Manila, this BMBE Act aims to recognize small business and micro-enterprise as a crucial part of the country's economy, so they're given perks and privilege to sustain their small operation. A BMBE also defined as any business enterprise engaged in production, processing, or manufacturing of product including agro-processing as well as trading and services with total assets of not more than 3 million. BMBE benefits include income tax exempted and no required minimum wage and receive training from respective agencies.